a promising demo response can disappear surprisingly fast. If the next step is vague or difficult, they just won't reply. The mistake is answering interest with another long pitch. The better move is to understand what caught their attention and then secure a clear next step while the conversation is still active. I'm Adiraj from Kingstone Systems. Here's how to turn a positive demo reply into a real sales conversation. We're going to use Baker Home Energy throughout this video as a worked example. Baker helps homeowners with solar, battery storage, and home energy systems. And so what that means for us is that creates a natural demonstration around backup power inquiries. Imagine the prospect has opened the personalized demo and replies in the original outreach thread. This is interesting. How would something like this work for us? At this point, stop analyzing views and engagement stages. The prospect has spoken directly, so their message is now the strongest signal. Answer in the same channel where the conversation began. You want to use one rule for every response. Answer first and then advance. Answering first proves that the conversation is for the buyer's benefit. Advancing gives them one clear decision instead of leaving the thread open and vague. Not every positive reply needs a meeting either. A factual question may deserve a factual answer. Offer a call when the question depends on their workflow or requires a real decision. A question like, how does this work for us, depends on how Baker currently handles inquiries. A short working call is the best next step. For Baker, I would write something like this. Glad it's useful. The next step is a short working call so I can understand how these inquiries reach your team today. Would Tuesday at 11 or Wednesday at 2 work? This works because the meeting has a reason. You aren't asking them to hop on a call so you can repeat the pitch. You're asking to understand the current process and decide whether the demoed idea fits it. Giving 2 reasonable times also reduces the work required to answer. If neither time works, the prospect can suggest another or use your calendar link. This is one place where the data supports being direct. Gong analyzed more than 300,000 sales emails and compared different calls to action. Once a buyer was already in a deal conversation, asking for a specific time was associated with substantially more booked meetings than using the same approach in cold outreach. The lesson is not to force meetings into cold messages. It's to become specific after the buyer has already shown interest. Don't force your scheduling link into every response. When the exchange is already personal, 2 times often feel easier than sending someone into another page. If they prefer a link, send it with 1 sentence of context. Here's my calendar, pick any time that works, and I'll come prepared to map this against your current inquiry process, and then attach your link. You want to name the meeting for the outcome, not for the internal sales stage. Baker inquiry workflow is much clearer than discovery call. Keep the first call short enough to feel easy to accept. 20 to 30 minutes is usually enough to understand the problem and to agree on what deserves a deeper next step. The invitation should identify who is meeting and what the conversation should cover. It should not read like a miniature proposal. Once the call is booked, send a simple confirmation. Perfect. I'll review the demo before we meet. We'll look at how inquiries reach your team today, where the response gaps appear, and whether a live version is worth scoping. The agenda protects both sides. The prospect knows that this will be a working conversation, and you have permission to ask about the real process behind the demo. Do not send them a questionnaire immediately unless the buyer requests one. Early momentum is easy to lose when a simple call becomes homework for them. You can still prepare without asking the prospect to do more. Open the business website again and review the exact service the demo highlighted. Then open up the CLA record for that business and read any genuine visitor conversation available. For Baker, the useful topic is backup power during wildfire shutoffs. A homeowner may depend on well pumps and wants several days of coverage. That is a valuable conversation starter, but it's not enough to recommend a battery, generator, system size, or runtime. So the demo proves relevance. The sales call determines the actual business process and whether an implementation opportunity exists. Write down those questions that you need answered, but don't script the prospect side of the call. You need to understand where the inquiry arrives, what happens before a qualified appointment, and where the team loses time or context. Then ask who owns that process. A strong opportunity can still stall when the person in the meeting cannot prove or operate the solution. Those questions prepare you for the conversation without scripting the prospect side of the call. When the next response is unclear, identify what is preventing the decision. A ready buyer needs a specific time, curious buyer needs an answer before another asks, and a blocked buyer needs the obstacle addressed or the conversation closed. Sometimes the prospect won't book immediately. They may ask for more information first. Don't respond with a giant deck or a wall of technical detail. Answer the question they asked and only that question, and give them one easy way forward. If they write something like, "Can you send more details?" you can answer something like this. Absolutely. The demo shows how a homeowner could get an immediate response before the inquiry reaches your team. The live version would be scoped around your actual workflow. Which part would be most useful to understand first? So their answer is going to tell you what more details actually means. It might be implementation, it might be pricing, it might be reliability, or how staff would handle the handoff. You want to respond to that topic directly, and then invite the call when a live conversation would be faster than another long message. Approach pricing questions the exact same way. Gong's deal research found a positive relationship between sharing price in writing and winning. It also found that the actual negotiation performs better when the conversation includes a live channel. That creates a practical boundary for us. Give the buyer useful pricing information before the meeting when you have it. Use the call for scope, trade-offs, and negotiation. If your offer has a fixed price, then state it clearly. If the scope genuinely changes with price, then explain and be clear about what determines it, and give it range only when that range is real. Don't hide it behind "it depends" and refuse to be useful. Also, don't invent a low number simply to secure the meeting. A sound response could be, "Pricing depends on the workflow and the systems involved. I can give you an exact recommendation after I understand those pieces. If you share how inquiries reach your team today, I can tell you whether this is even worth a call." If you do have a starting price or established range, include it before asking for the call. The prospect should not need a meeting to discover that the budget is impossible for them. Another common response is, "We already have someone handling this." Don't attack the current provider or imply the team is failing. Ask where the existing process works and whether the demoed experience addresses anything they still want improved. You could write, "That makes sense. If the current process is working, I would not replace it for the sake of adding AI. Did the demo show anything that your current setup doesn't handle today?" And so that positions you as someone diagnosing fit, not someone forcing a predetermined tool. And if they say their current system already covers everything, just thank them and stop. A professional exit protects that relationship better than a clever rebuttal. You want to approach proof questions the same way. If someone asks, "Who else have you done this for?" use the strongest evidence you actually have. That may be a relevant client case study, a technical build, or a personalized demo itself. Also worth noting is a paid pilot should not be a vague discount. It needs a bounded result, a defined period, and a clear decision at the end. Those details belong in the sales process after you understand the problem. Don't promise a pilot before you actually know what you would deliver. When the prospect said the timing isn't right, separate a future opportunity from a polite rejection. Ask for permission just once. Understood. Is there a specific month when this becomes worth revisiting, or should I close the loop for now? If they give you a date, then report it in your own follow-up system and contact them when promised. If they don't, then leave the conversation alone. Silence after a positive response needs a restraint too. If the prospect agreed to book but never chose a time, then send one short reminder that restores the decision. "Still happy to walk you through this. Would Tuesday at 11 work? Or is this better left for another time?" The second option makes it easy and safe to say no. That often produces a clearer answer than another open-ended message like "just checking in." After that, stop, unless the prospect gave you a specific reason to continue. Do not change channels to escape their silence either. The deeper principle here is commitment matching. Match the commitment you request to the commitment that the prospect has already shown. Curiosity earns a useful answer. A concrete problem can also justify a working call. This prevents two common errors. One is asking for too much before the buyer understands the value, and the other is answering forever without requesting a decision. Answer first and then advance. If you cannot explain why the next commitment helps the buyer, it's probably the wrong ask. A booked meeting earns preparation. A decline ends the sequence. Neither curiosity nor engagement gives you permission to keep pressuring someone. You should also respond while the conversation is warm. Speed communicates attention, but frantic replies can make the process feel automated. During normal working hours, answer positive interest as soon as you reasonably can. A clear response today is usually much more valuable than a polished mini proposal tomorrow. Before the meeting, you want to return to the actual evidence. Review the business, the personalized demo, and any real conversation the prospect created. Note what you know and keep assumptions separate. Bring the demo link so you can reference the same experience together. Do not rebuild it or introduce a different idea before learning why the original one earned their interest. Once the meeting is booked and prepared, the outreach has done its job. The demo created a relevant reason to reply, and your response turned that interest into a defined conversation. Your preparation is what keeps that call focused on the buyer's real process. And that is exactly how you turn a personalized demo into a sales asset. If you want to build personalized demos and turn them into client conversations, CL is linked below. The Client Accelerator includes the software, the operating workflow, and the coaching around landing your first client. If you want more practical breakdowns on turning demos into clients, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.